Blood froze on Emily's cheek as her father's wagon lurched forward, disappearing into the howling January blizzard of 1871. No last glance back, no hesitation, just abandonment as final as death. Her mother had dropped only a single tattered blanket from the wagon's edge, a pitiful token of remembered conscience. "Pa, Ma, please." Ben's desperate scream tore through the wind, his 8-year-old frame trembling violently beside her. Emily's 12-year-old heart hardened instantly, childhood ending in that brutal moment. "They're not coming back, Ben," she whispered, the wind stealing her words. Mountain snow already covered their footprints, erasing their existence from the world. Temperature plummeting, nightfall, approaching, death circling like an invisible predator. Emily grabbed the discarded blanket, wrapping it around her sobbing brother. "We need to move, or we'll freeze." Her voice sounded strange, adult, commanding, stripped of childish hope. She'd overheard enough to understand why they'd been abandoned. The stolen Apache artifacts hidden in their father's cargo were worth more than his children's lives. A treasure that had transformed him from loving father to cold-eyed stranger in mere months. Ben's lips were turning blue, his movements slowing dangerously. Emily hoisted him onto her back, snow already knee-deep and falling faster. "Tell me about stars, Ben," she urged, desperate to keep him conscious. "Oh, can't see stars in a blizzard," he stuttered, head lolling against her shoulder. "No, but they're still there." Each step was agony, her legs burning while her extremities numbed. "We'll see them again. Promise." Her foot caught on hidden rock, sending them tumbling down a snow-covered embankment. Pain shot through Emily's ankle as they crashed against stone. For one terrifying moment, the seductive whisper of surrender flowed through her. "Just close your eyes, rest a moment, escape the pain." Ben's whimper snapped her back. Death was patient, but never kind. Through swirling snow, Emily spotted a dark recess in the mountainside, a small cave barely visible in the fading light. Dragging Ben toward it, she collapsed inside the shallow shelter, immediately working to create fire from the flint and steel miraculously included in the small pack with their blanket. Her fingers, stiff and unresponsive, fumbled repeatedly before a spark finally caught. "Stay awake, Ben." She shook him roughly when his eyelids drooped. "Remember how Pa said we were tougher than that trapper who survived 3 weeks alone?" The tiny flame cast weak shadows against stone walls, their meager defense against the killing cold. Night deepened. The temperature plummeted further. Ben had stopped shivering, a deadly sign. His lips turned alarming blue. Emily held him tight, her own survival forgotten in the desperate attempt to transfer body heat to her brother. "Please," she whispered to the darkness, "take me if you must, but spare him." The fire dwindled to embers. Ben's breathing grew shallow, intermittent. Emily's consciousness began to fade, darkness at the edges of her vision, when a shadow suddenly blocked what little light remained. A towering figure filled the cave entrance snow, crusting his buckskins, dark eyes evaluating the scene in an instant. Emily tried to scream, but produced only a ragged whisper. Her terror shifted to confusion when the stranger immediately built up their dying fire, his movements swift and precise. From his pack he produced dried meat, a water skin, and a heavy buffalo hide coat that he wrapped around both children. Apache. She realized with dawning horror, every frontier tale of scalping and torture flooding her mind. Yet his hands were gentle as he checked Ben's pulse, his expression grim but not unkind. "Eat," he commanded in heavily accented English, pressing pemmican into her trembling hands. "Boy, very cold. Need warmth food." Emily hesitated only briefly before hunger and desperation overrode fear. The stranger maintained the fire through the night, his vigilance unwavering while the siblings slept. By dawn, color had returned to Ben's face. The storm had eased to scattered flakes, the wind's howls softened to occasional moans. "Who are you?" Emily finally asked, voice stronger, after food and rest. "Gentle Bear," he replied, studying their faces carefully. "Apache hunter. Found tracks wagon leaving small feet in snow, not good tracks." His jaw tightened. White parents leave children to die. Shame burned hotter than the fire. "They said we slowed them down," Emily admitted, unable to meet his eyes. "They were taking things. From burial grounds, I think." Something dangerous flashed across Gentle Bear's features. "The sunrise token," he stated rather than asked. "Sacred stone taken from ancestors' resting place. Many white men come take many things. This token most important." "I didn't know," Emily began, but Gentle Bear raised his hand. "Not your doing." His eyes softened slightly. "Children not responsible for parents' theft, abandonment. What happens to us now?" Ben asked, his voice small. "My people's winter camp, 3 days' journey." Gentle Bear began fashioning snowshoes from materials in his pack. "No other safe place closer." "You're taking us to an Apache camp." Emily's frontier-bred fears resurfaced. Gentle Bear paused, leveling a steady gaze at her. "You prefer frozen mountain." When she didn't answer, he continued working. "Apache value children, all children. Yours, ours, same in Creator's eyes." He fashioned a simple travois from saplings. "Boy rides, girl walks, I break trail." The journey was brutal. Despite Gentle Bear's trail breaking, Emily struggled through snow that sometimes reached her waist. By midday, her strength failed completely. Without comment, Gentle Bear lifted her onto his back, while continuing to pull the travois carrying Ben. Emily wanted to protest, but couldn't form words, silently marveling at strength that seemed impossible for any man. That night at their makeshift camp beneath a rocky overhang, Gentle Bear spoke more. "Parents stole from sacred ground." "Why?" "Money." Emily answered simply. "People pay a lot for Indian things." "Not just things," Gentle Bear corrected sharply. "Connection to ancestors, to sun and earth. Without sunrise token, no ceremony to welcome spring, no balance." He studied her face. "Your parents understand this." "They didn't care." Emily whispered the truth, burning her throat. "My father changed after finding one special item. Became secretive, mean. I think it was your token." Gentle Bear nodded slowly. "Bad spirits sometimes enter hearts through greed. Make parents forget sacred duty." It wasn't forgiveness, but acknowledgement of a darkness older than either of them. On the third day, they crested a ridge overlooking a sheltered valley. Below, a collection of wickiups formed a roughly circular village, smoke rising from cooking fires. Emily felt Ben tense beside her. "Will they hurt us?" he whispered. "They will question," Gentle Bear answered honestly. "But Apache way teaches respect for smallest warriors." He rested a hand briefly on Ben's shoulder. "Show courage, speak truth, you earn place." Their arrival caused immediate commotion. Warriors materialized at the camp's edge. Women gathered children, protectively. Elders emerged from dwellings to observe. Emily fought the urge to hide behind Gentle Bear as he called out in Apache, explaining their presence. An older man with streaks of gray in his hair approached his deeply lined face, revealing nothing as he examined the white children. After intense discussion, Gentle Bear turned to Emily. "You stay until next full moon. Work, learn, cause no trouble. Not prisoners, not yet family. Guests who work." That first night in Gentle Bear's wickiup, lying beside Ben on soft furs near a warm fire, Emily whispered, "We're alive, Ben. Whatever happens next, we survived when they thought we wouldn't." Ben's voice came sleepily through darkness. The Apache man saved us when our own paw left us to die. That means something, doesn't it? Yes, Emily replied, surprising herself with the certainty in her voice. It means everything. Days flowed into weeks. Emily learned women's work grinding corn, tanning hides, weaving baskets, while Ben quickly integrated with Apache children, learning their language with remarkable speed. The tribe's initial wariness gradually softened as the siblings proved themselves willing workers and respectful guests. 2 weeks into their stay, Tall Woman, an elderly woman who had been teaching Emily, presented her with a small knife, its antler handle intricately carved. The gift represented not just practical necessity, but growing acceptance. That same day, Ben joined the youngest boys for his first archery lesson, beaming with pride when he returned to tell Emily, "I'm good at it, Emmy way better than Tommy Jensen ever was back home." His casual reference to their previous life stung, but Emily nodded encouragement, watching her brother adapt with both relief and concern. Would he forget everything about their former life, including their abandonment's harsh lesson? Each night, Emily inspected their tattered blanket, the last physical connection to their past. One evening alone in Gentle Bear's wiki-up, she noticed something odd, a section where the fabric had been cut and resewn with nearly invisible stitches. Curious, she used her new knife to unpick the seam, discovering a small object wrapped in deerskin hidden within the hem. Unwrapping it revealed a flat, circular stone about the size of her palm, covered in etched symbols and painted with faded red and yellow ochre. Emily's blood ran cold with recognition. This must be the sunrise token. Gentle Bear had mentioned, the sacred object stolen from Apache burial grounds. A shadow fell across the entrance. Gentle Bear stood silhouetted against the night sky, his expression shifting from neutral to shocked as his eyes fell on the object in Emily's hands. "Where did you get that?" he demanded, voice sharper than she'd ever heard. Emily explained truthfully, showing him the restitched section of blanket. Gentle Bear took the stone with reverent care, his face grave as he examined it. "This is sunrise token, sacred to my people." "Did my parents steal this?" Emily whispered, already knowing the answer. Gentle Bear nodded, his expression unreadable in the dim firelight. "Many white men came, took many things. This most important. Without it, no sun ceremony possible." The implications hit Emily like physical blows. Her parents hadn't just been smuggling random artifacts, they'd taken something precious, something sacred to the very people who had saved their abandoned children. Worse, they had hidden it in their children's blanket, using them as unwitting carriers. "I didn't know," she said, voice breaking. "Please believe me." Gentle Bear studied her face before nodding slowly. "I believe you. But elders must know. Token must be returned to sacred place." The following morning, Emily stood before the Council of Elders, the sunrise token laid on ceremonial hide in the circle's center. Spotted Owl, the oldest medicine man, spoke first, his words translated by Gentle Bear. "The token's return is a powerful sign," he announced. "That it comes through children abandoned by those who stole it speaks of Creator's hand at work." He fixed Emily with penetrating eyes. "Did you know it was hidden in your blanket?" "No," Emily replied, holding his gaze steadily. "I only found it last night. I would have told you immediately if I'd known." After lengthy deliberation, the council rendered judgment: the token must be returned to its sacred place, with proper ceremony, before the full moon. Gentle Bear would lead the journey, taking Emily with him, while Ben remained safely in camp. "You found it unknowing," Spotted Owl explained. "You revealed it honestly. You must be part of its return journey." 3 days later, Emily and Gentle Bear set out for the sacred valley, the token secured in a special hide pouch around Gentle Bear's neck. As they traveled southward toward higher peaks, Emily learned about the token's significance, how it connected the people to their ancestors, to the sun's cycles, to the balance of all living things. Without token, ceremonies fail. Gentle Bear explained. Spirits grow restless, harmony breaks. On their second night, as they camped beneath star-filled skies, Gentle Bear unexpectedly shared his own story. Mexican raiders who had killed his family when he was only 6, leaving him to wander alone until his uncle's hunting party found him half dead from exposure and starvation. "Is that why you helped us?" Emily asked softly. "Because you remembered what it was like. Child alone in storm speaks to all hearts that know such coldness," he replied. Apache way teaches circle of giving help, given becomes help received when most needed. On the third day, they entered territory Gentle Bear approached with increased caution. The sacred valley lay just beyond the next ridge, accessible only through a narrow pass. "Others may seek tokens still," he warned. "Those who stole those who would buy." They reached the hidden valley by midday, a breathtaking paradise nestled among towering cliffs with a clear lake at its center, fed by a sparkling waterfall. Despite winter-sheltered pockets of green, persisted the air noticeably warmer than the exposed mountainside. Sacred place. Gentle Bear confirmed voice, hushed with reverence. Burial ground of great chiefs, medicine people. We make camp at edge, perform ceremony at dawn, when sun first touches eastern rim. As they prepared their camp, Emily noticed Gentle Bear's increasing tension. He moved with heightened alertness, frequently scanning their surroundings. "What's wrong?" she finally asked. "Signs of others," he replied grimly. "Recent tracks near pass, not Apache." Night fell with excruciating slowness, each shadow seeming to harbor potential threats. They forewent fire despite the cold, taking turns keeping watch. During Emily's vigil in the deepest part of night, a faint metallic click broke the natural silence. Across the small clearing, a shadow moved with deliberate stealth toward their camp. Without turning her head, Emily reached backward, her fingers finding Gentle Bear's arm. A gentle squeeze awakened him instantly. With hand signals, he directed Emily to remain still while he circled behind their position. The shadowy figure, a man with a rifle, continued his cautious approach. Suddenly, a branch cracked somewhere to Emily's left, causing the intruder to spin in that direction. Gentle Bear launched from the shadows, tackling the man with such force that his rifle went flying. After a brief violent struggle, the intruder lay unconscious, quickly bound with rawhide strips. When Gentle Bear rolled him onto his back, moonlight revealed a face Emily recognized with shock. Harker, a prospector who had occasionally traveled with her parents. "He worked with my father," she whispered. "He was with our wagon the day before they abandoned us." "He is not alone," Gentle Bear said grimly. "Others wait nearby. We must move." They relocated to a cluster of boulders against the eastern cliff, a defensible position from which they could observe the clearing. Their bound prisoner, now gagged, glared at them with hatred, his eyes fixing on the pouch containing the token at Emily's neck. Gentle Bear had transferred it to her during their relocation, an unexpected gesture of trust. Dawn approached with agonizing slowness. As the eastern sky began to lighten, they spotted 3 more men moving toward their abandoned campsite. "Harker's companions," Emily whispered. The men discovered the empty camp, their body language conveying confusion and anger. One examined the ground, then pointed toward the boulders where Emily and Gentle Bear hid. "They will find us soon," Gentle Bear said quietly. "You have token, keep safe. Stay hidden while I draw them away." Before Emily could protest this dangerous plan, he slipped away through a gap between boulders, moving with silent grace. Minutes later, a bird call from the west drew 2 searchers in that direction. The third continued toward the boulders. A commotion erupted from the western edge, shouts, a gunshot, then silence. The man near Emily's hiding place hesitated before jogging toward the disturbance. Had Gentle Bear been shot, Emily's heart pounded painfully against her ribs. The first direct rays of sunlight began touching the highest peaks. Dawn when the ceremony should have been performed. Emily made a sudden decision. If Gentle Bear couldn't complete the ritual, perhaps she could at least return the token to its proper place. She recalled his descriptions of the sacred site, a circle of standing stones near the lake, aligned with the sunrise. From her position, Millie could see what must be those stones, now illuminated by strengthening dawn light. Checking to ensure no one watched, she slipped from hiding and began making her way toward the lake, staying low and using available cover. Behind her, Harker thrashed against his bonds, trying to alert his companions. Halfway to the stone circle, Emily heard shouts they had discovered her absence. Abandoning caution, she sprinted the final distance. The circle contained weathered monoliths arranged around a central flat stone serving as an altar. As Emily entered, the first direct sunlight struck the altar, illuminating symbols carved into its surface that matched those on the token. With trembling hands, she placed the sunrise token in a shallow depression at the altar's center, aligning its markings with corresponding ones on the larger stone. The moment connection was made, Emily felt rather than heard a subtle shift, as if something long misaligned had finally returned to proper position. The air seemed to vibrate with unseen energy. A rifle shot cracked across the clearing. One of Harker's men had spotted her, his bullet striking the altar then inches from her hands. Emily ducked but remained determined to complete the ceremony. Rising slightly, she began reciting the prayer Gentle Bear had taught her, her voice gaining strength with each word despite the danger. Another shot came closer, stone fragments stinging her cheek. Before the shooter could fire again, Gentle Bear intercepted him with ferocious intent. As Emily completed the final words, a profound stillness descended over the stone circle, the morning light intensifying briefly before returning to normal. The struggle between Gentle Bear and the gunman ended with the Apache warrior rendering his opponent unconscious. But as he rose, the second man emerged from the trees, rifle aimed squarely at Gentle Bear's chest. Emily cried warning, but there was nowhere for Gentle Bear to hide, no time to reach cover. Desperate to save her friend, Emily grabbed a stone and hurled it with all her strength. It struck the gunman's shoulder, just as he fired, throwing off his aim, enough that the bullet went wide. Gentle Bear closed the distance with astonishing speed, disarming and subduing the man with practiced efficiency. "It is done," he said, simply inspecting the token now resting in its rightful place. "You completed ceremony when I could not. This was meant to be." As they prepared to leave the valley, Emily cast a final look at the stone circle, at the token gleaming in full morning light. Something had shifted within her, some understanding of connections between people and land, between generations, between seen and unseen aspects of existence that transcended the narrow worldview she'd been taught. Their return journey to the Apache camp was markedly different. Though remaining vigilant, Gentle Bear shared stories of the landscape, taught Emily plant names, and their uses treated her as someone worthy of receiving knowledge, rather than merely a child to be protected. They arrived at camp 3 days later to find preparations for celebration underway. Ben spotted them first, racing toward his sister with unrestrained joy. "Emily, you're back. They said you might not return, but I knew you would." That evening, as full moon rose above mountains, celebration began in earnest. A great bonfire blazed in the camp's center, the entire tribe gathered according to tradition. Food was shared while stories were told, first by Spotted Owl, then by other elders. When the narrative reached the token's return, Emily recounted her discovery and journey, Gentle Bear translating her words, while adding his account of their confrontation with Harker. Later, as musicians played flutes and drums, dancers moved into the firelit circle, their movements telling stories without words. Ben fell asleep against Emily's shoulder, exhausted by excitement. Gentle Bear noticed her fatigue and suggested she take Ben to his wickiup. Tomorrow would bring new decisions, new paths to consider. The following morning, Emily was summoned before the council. Through Gentle Bear's translation, Spotted Owl addressed her directly. "You have returned, our sacred token, completed a journey of restoration despite great danger. The Council has decided your place among us. If you choose, you and your brother may remain until spring thaw makes travel to white settlements possible. Then you must decide return to your kind or stay and become Apache in truth. It was more than Emily had dared hope, not just temporary shelter, but possibility of permanent home, a place of belonging. The decision wasn't one to be made immediately. Emily was granted time to consider while winter deepened around them. She immersed herself in Apache life-learning language, advancing to skilled crafts like beadwork, studying complex social structures and spiritual beliefs. Ben continued his own integration, now speaking Apache almost as fluently as English. A month after their return from the Sacred Valley, commotion at the camp's perimeter drew everyone's attention. Warriors positioned themselves protectively as riders approached. Gentle Bear appeared beside Emily, his expression grave. 7 riders approach, 1 injured. They ask for shelter, say they know you. Emily's heart raced with conflicting emotions. Could it be her parents returned after all these months? Relief and disappointment mingled when she recognized the riders, members of the wagon train that had traveled with them before their abandonment. At the forefront rode Mr. Jensen, a blacksmith whose family had shared campfires with Emily's for weeks. After conferring with warriors, Gentle Bear brought Emily forward. Mrs. Jensen dismounted, rushing toward Emily with outstretched arms. "Oh, child, we thought you were dead. We've been searching for months." The Jensens and their companions were allowed into camp under supervision. While the tribe's healer treated one man's infected leg, Mr. Jensen explained their presence. After Emily's parents reached the trading post with their stolen artifacts, word spread about valuable items they carried. They were ambushed by outlaws, both killed for their ill-gotten gains. When the Jensens heard about the deaths, they realized with horror that Emily and Ben were missing. "We backtracked along your parents' trail." Mr. Jensen explained, his weathered face lined with regret. "Found where they must have left you in that mountain pass. Expected to find bodies. When we found nothing, we started searching everywhere, asking at every settlement if anyone had seen 2 lost children." Mrs. Jensen took Emily's hands in hers. "We've come to take you home, dear. You and Ben both. We've made arrangements in Tucson. You'll live with us until suitable homes can be found." The offer was made with sincere compassion, with certainty that any white child would naturally wish to return to white society. Once Emily would have shared that certainty. Now the prospect of leaving the community that had saved them filled her with profound ambivalence. "May I speak with my brother?" she asked. Ben's reaction surprised her. "I don't want to go," he said immediately. "My friends are here. I'm learning to hunt and track. Tall woman is teaching me the stories of the people. They're offering us a home, Ben," Emily said gently. "With other white families, people like us. They're not like us anymore," Ben replied with unexpected wisdom. "We're different now." That evening, Emily sought Gentle Bear's counsel. "The white people want to take us back. What should we do?" Gentle Bear added a branch to his fire before responding. "Decision must be yours. Each path has joys, sorrows. No path all good or all bad." He looked at her directly. "But children need roots to grow strong. Need to know who they are, where they belong." "Ben wants to stay," Emily told him. "He feels at home here in a way. I'm not sure I ever will." Gentle Bear nodded. "Boy learns fast, has open heart. Girl thinks more, weighs more." His slight smile took any sting from the words. "If stay always part of you, remain white eyes. If go part, always remain Apache. No escape this truth." That night, Emily dreamed of fragmented images, her parents' faces as they abandoned their children, Gentle Bear appearing through blizzard, the sunrise token, gleaming in morning light. She woke with no greater clarity, but growing sense that decision must come soon. Morning brought unexpected catastrophe. Distant shouts of alarm echoed from the camp's perimeter. Warriors rushed to defensive positions while women and children were directed toward sheltered areas. From higher ground, Emily glimpsed a large force approaching, at least 20 armed men on horseback. Leading them was Harker, somehow escaped from his bonds in the Sacred Valley. Gentle Bear appeared beside her, expression grim. Raiders come for revenge, for token perhaps. Followed Jensen group to find us. The Jensens had been searching openly for months, asking questions at every settlement about Apache bands. Harker had simply followed them to locate the camp he could never have found alone. Take brother to cave behind waterfall. Gentle Bear directed, pointing toward a nearby hillside. Hidden entrance behind water. Many tunnels inside, easy to defend. Others will come soon. You go first, prepare firewater. The cave was just as described, entrance concealed behind waterfall, interior extending deep into hillside with multiple chambers. Emily set Ben gathering branches while she arranged supplies. As she worked, sounds of conflict reached them, even through the muffling waterfall shouts, occasional gunshots, distinctive whoops of Apache warriors engaging enemies. Hours passed with agonizing slowness. Other tribe members began arriving, first the youngest children with elderly caretakers, then pregnant women and mothers with infants. Each brought fragments of information. The raiders had been prevented from entering camp itself, fighting spreading into surrounding forest, as both sides sought tactical advantage. Gentle Bear was coordinating defense. While the Jensens fought alongside Apache warriors, Mr. Jensen and his sons proving unexpected allies. By midday, most non-combatants had reached relative safety. Emily organized the cave efficiently, establishing areas for cooking, sleeping, treating injuries. She kept Ben close, assigning tasks that provided distraction from their fears. Late afternoon brought a lull in arrivals. Emily stationed herself near the entrance, watching anxiously for approaching figures. As daylight faded, she spotted a group moving urgently toward the cave. Tall woman supporting an injured woman, and behind them, Gentle Bear assisting wounded Mr. Jensen. Two riders were visible in the distance, closing rapidly. Without hesitation, Emily emerged from behind the waterfall, signaling the entrance location. Her appearance drew the pursuers, who altered course to intercept her rather than continuing after the main group. As Gentle Bear hurried the injured toward safety, the riders bore down on Emily's position. She turned to flee, but knew she wouldn't reach the waterfall in time. A rifle shot cracked across the valley. The lead rider pitched from his horse, hitting ground with bone-breaking force. The second pulled up short, scanning for the shooter. Another shot followed, causing the horse to rear and throw its rider. From a ridgeline above, one of the Jensen boys had positioned himself as sniper to cover the retreat. Inside the cave, Emily discovered other injured had arrived, 3 Apache warriors with various wounds, and tragically one of the Jensen boys shot while helping evacuate children. His father and brothers sat beside him, faces masks of grief, as the Apache healer worked to save him. As darkness fell, most of the tribe had reached the cave. Raiders had been driven back temporarily, but remained in the broader area, regrouping rather than retreating. Scouts reported approximately 15 attackers still active. The tribe had suffered painful losses, as had their Jensen allies. A council gathered to assess options. Spotted Owl open discussion. Raiders seek token, seek revenge. Will not leave easily. They might attempt to wait out the cave's occupants, knowing supplies were limited. Mr. Jensen, despite his grief, offered insight born of frontier experience. These men are outlaws, not soldiers. They lack discipline for a long siege. If they face determined resistance and see no quick path to their goal, most will lose heart. He paused, wincing from his wound. Except Harker. He's driven by more than greed. He has personal stake in this fight. As council deliberated strategy, a young Apache warrior burst into the chamber, speaking rapidly. Gentle Bear translated, "Rider approaches alone. Carries white flag. Says he has message. Warriors escorted the messenger, one of Harker's men, to the council. His eyes widened, seeing the Jensens fighting alongside Apache. Harker says he wants only what was stolen, the man announced nervously. The sacred stone and the white children. Give those up, he leaves your people alone. Oh, children, not property to give. Spotted Owl replied through Gentle Bear's translation. Token returned to sacred place cannot be removed. Harker figured you'd say something like that. The messenger continued. That's why he sent this. He produced a folded paper from inside his coat. Found it on the dead woman. Emily's breath caught dead woman. Her parents were supposedly killed by outlaws months ago. Gentle Bear took the paper, examining it before passing it to Emily. With trembling hands, she unfolded what proved to be a letter, written in familiar handwriting, her mother's. My dearest Emily and Benjamin, if you are reading this, I am gone from this world. Perhaps that is just punishment for what your father and I have done. You must understand that the artifact your father found changed him in ways I cannot explain. The greed that consumed him eventually touched me as well, leading to acts I will regret eternally. The most unforgivable was abandoning you both in that mountain pass. I fought your father, but not hard enough. I placed the sunrise token in your blanket's hem before leaving you, not to make you unwitting accomplices, but in desperate hope that should you survive, you might eventually return it to its rightful owners. I knew of the Apache camp nearby. I gambled with your lives, praying their legendary compassion for children might extend even to those of their enemies. It was a mother's desperate final act, giving my children their only chance at survival while attempting small atonement for our terrible theft. If miracle occurs and you are alive to read this, know that my final thoughts were of you both, and my final prayer, that you find people worthy of your trust, something your father and I proved ourselves unworthy of in the end. With love and deepest regret, Mother. The cave fell silent as Gentle Bear translated the letter for the council. Emily's world tilted on its axis. Her mother had intentionally hidden the token, had known of the Apache camp, had tried in her flawed, desperate way to give her children a chance at survival, even while participating in their abandonment. Letter changes nothing. Harker's messenger insisted. Harker still wants the stone and the kids. Says he'll burn your entire camp otherwise. The Harker lies, a voice said from the cave entrance. Everyone turned to find Mrs. Jensen standing there, blood staining her skirts, supporting a wounded Apache woman. I heard him talking with his men. He's been working for a collector in San Francisco, same man who hired Emily's parents to steal Apache artifacts. When they double-crossed him, taking the most valuable pieces for themselves, this collector sent Harker to retrieve his property. He killed Emily's parents and has been searching for the sacred token ever since. How you know this? Gentle Bear demanded. Because I was there when they died. Mrs. Jensen admitted, her face ashen with the confession. Not as a friend, as an agent for the collector myself. The revelation struck Emily like physical blow. Mrs. Jensen, who had embraced her with seemingly genuine relief, who had offered them a home, was connected to their parents' deaths and the theft of sacred Apache artifacts. I was supposed to identify valuable pieces in frontier settlements. Mrs. Jensen continued, tears streaming down her weathered face. When I realized what had happened to you children, I convinced my husband to help search for you. I told myself it was to make amends, but in truth I hoped you might lead us to the token. Mr. Jensen looked as shocked as everyone else. Mary, what have you done? He whispered. What I thought necessary for our family's survival. She replied brokenly. But I can't do this anymore. Not after seeing these people take in children not their own. Not after watching my own son fight alongside them to protect those same children. She turned to Emily, genuine remorse in her eyes. I am so sorry. Emily stood frozen, this new betrayal cutting deep. Yet something in Mrs. Jensen's confession rang true. The woman had changed, just as Emily herself had changed. Before she could respond, Harker's messenger spoke again. Doesn't matter who did what. Harker's giving you until dawn. Token and kids, or everyone dies. Spotted Owl dismissed the messenger with dignity that belied the gravity of their situation. Once he was gone, council resumed with new urgency. Emily listened as Apache warriors and Jensen men, now united, despite Mrs. Jensen's revelation, debated options. Finally, Emily stepped forward. "I have a plan," she said quietly. "But it's dangerous and I'll need help." Dawn approached pale light, creeping over eastern mountains. Harker and his men had positioned themselves around the forested approach to the waterfall cave, cutting off escape routes while preparing for final assault. They expected desperation, perhaps attempted negotiation. What they didn't expect was a single figure emerging from forest edge, Emily walking calmly toward them, apparently alone. Harker stepped forward, rifle casually propped against his shoulder. "Smart girl," he called. "Where's your brother and the token?" "Ben's coming," Emily replied, voice steady despite her pounding heart. "And I know where the token is. But I want your word, once you have what you want, you'll leave these people alone." Harker's smile never reached his eyes. "Of course, girl. I'm a businessman, not a monster." Emily forced herself not to look toward the ridgelines, where she knew Apache warriors and Jensen brothers had positioned themselves overnight. The plan required Harker and his men to be drawn into the open, away from the cave. "Ben's waiting with someone who can take you to the token," she said. "But only a few of you. The rest stay here." Harker considered briefly before nodding. "Fine. Me and 2 men will go with you. The rest stay ready." He gestured to 2 nearby outlaws, who immediately flanked him. Emily led them along a narrow trail away from the cave toward a small clearing where Ben waited with Gentle Bear. The Apache warrior stood tall-faced, impassive, as their enemies approached. Ben looked terrified, but determined, staying exactly where Emily had positioned him. "The token is in the rock formation behind us," Emily informed Harker. "But only the boy can reach it, and there's a small opening only a child can fit through." Harker's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Convenient. Boy, get over here. First, your men put down their weapons," Emily demanded, chin raised defiantly. "Ben doesn't move until they do." Harker laughed, the sound like stones grinding together. "You're hardly in position to make demands, girl." "I am, when I'm the only one who knows exactly where the token is hidden," Emily replied steadily. "And when Apache warriors have arrows aimed at your head from 3 directions. Harker's smile faltered as his eyes darted to the surrounding ridgelines. He couldn't see the warriors Emily described, but the possibility was enough to make him hesitate. "Fine," he growled, nodding to his men. "Put 'em down, slowly." The outlaws reluctantly placed their rifles on the ground. Emily motioned Ben forward, her heart racing beneath her calm exterior. Everything depended on perfect timing. "Show them Ben," she said clearly, the signal they'd arranged. Ben moved toward the rocks behind Gentle Bear, who remained motionless, his expression revealing nothing. As Ben disappeared behind a large boulder, Harker's patience visibly frayed. "If that boy's running off—" "He's not," Emily interrupted. "Getting the token takes time. It's wedged deep." Seconds stretched into minutes. Harker's men grew increasingly nervous, eyes scanning the ridgelines for the Apache warriors Emily had mentioned. Finally, Ben's voice called from behind the rocks. "I got it, Emily. Bring it here," Harker commanded, extending his hand. "No," Emily countered. "He brings it to me first. I need to verify it's the real token." Harker's jaw tightened, but he nodded grudgingly. Ben emerged from behind the rocks, hands cupped around what appeared to be a circular object wrapped in deerskin. He walked past the outlaws, toward Emily, his small face rigid with concentration. As he passed Gentle Bear, everything exploded into action. The Apache warrior launched forward, tackling one outlaw while simultaneously kicking the legs out from under the second. From 3 directions hidden, warriors rose from concealed positions, not with bows, as Emily had suggested, but with the outlaws' own rifles taken during nighttime raids on their camp. Harker lunged for the nearest weapon, but found himself facing the barrel of a pistol held by Mrs. Jensen, who had emerged from hiding behind the very rocks where Ben had pretended to retrieve the token. "It's over, Harker," she said, her hand steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "No more children will suffer for this madness." Harker's face contorted with rage. "You stupid woman. Do you have any idea what that artifact is worth? What people will pay for authentic, sacred items?" "I know exactly what they pay," she replied coldly. "And I know what it cost me my soul. I won't pay that price anymore." In that moment of distraction, Harker made his move, diving toward Emily with unexpected speed. His hand closed around her throat as he dragged her against him, using her as a shield. "Nobody moves," he shouted, backing away, "or I break her neck." Emily struggled against his grip, panic rising as his arm tightened around her windpipe. Through darkening vision, she saw Ben's horrified face, Gentle Bear's calculating eyes, Mrs. Jensen's trembling pistol now rendered useless with Emily in the line of fire. In desperation, Emily remembered Gentle Bear's teachings about balance, about using an opponent's strength against them. She abruptly went limp, becoming dead weight in Harker's arms. The sudden shift threw him off balance, loosening his grip just enough. Emily drove her elbow backward with all her strength, catching him in the stomach. As he gasped, she twisted free, dropping to the ground. A shot rang out, followed by eerie silence. Emily looked up to see Harker standing motionless, a look of surprise on his face. Blood blossomed across his chest as he toppled forward into the dirt. Behind where he had stood, rifle still raised, was Mr. Jensen, his weathered face set in grim determination. "No one threatens a child while I draw breath," he said, simply lowering the weapon. The remaining outlaws, seeing their leader dead and themselves surrounded, surrendered without further resistance. As Apache warriors secured them, Ben rushed to Emily, throwing his arms around her with such force she nearly fell. "You did it, Emmy," he whispered fiercely. "Just like you planned." Emily hugged him tightly, relief making her knees weak. "We did it, Ben, all of us together." Gentle Bear approached, his normally stoic expression softened with something resembling pride. "Brave plan. Dangerous, but brave." "I learned from the best," Emily replied with a shaky smile. Back at the cave, celebrating their victory, was tempered by tending to the wounded and mourning those lost in the conflict. The Jensens kept to themselves the revelation of Mrs. Jensen's duplicity, creating a painful rift that even their son's injury couldn't fully bridge. That evening, Mrs. Jensen sought Emily out, finding her helping to prepare healing herbs under Tall Woman's direction. "I don't expect forgiveness," the older woman said quietly. "But I want you to understand. When the collector first approached us, we were about to lose our farm. 3 bad harvests, mounting debts. He offered enough money to save everything just for information about native artifacts." Emily continued grinding herbs, not looking up. "Did you know what happened to my parents?" Mrs. Jensen closed her eyes briefly. "I knew the collectors sent Harker after them when they took the most valuable pieces for themselves. I didn't know he'd kill them. Or at least, that's what I told myself." She paused, hands trembling. "When we heard they were dead and you children missing, something broke inside me. I truly did want to find you to make something right out of so much wrong." "And now?" Emily asked, finally meeting the woman's gaze. "Now I'll face whatever consequences come," Mrs. Jensen replied with quiet dignity. "My husband and sons knew nothing of my arrangement with the collector. They shouldn't suffer for my choices." Emily considered this, thinking of her own mother's final letter. Another woman who had made terrible choices, yet sought some form of redemption in her final acts. "The Apache believe in balance," she said finally. Maybe helping to stop Harker begins to balance what you did. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement. Mrs. Jensen nodded once, understanding the limited mercy being offered. The following morning, Spotted Owl convened the council once more. The threat was ended, Harker dead, his remaining men taken by a cavalry patrol summoned by Mr. Jensen's oldest son, who had ridden through the night to the nearest fort. Now decisions about the future required attention. The token is secure. Spotted Owl began. Balance restored. Now we must decide about the white children and their protectors. Mr. Jensen spoke first, his manner respectful but direct. My wife has confessed her role in these events to the captain who took custody of Harker's men. She will return with me to face whatever justice awaits. Our surviving sons will stay with relatives in California. He turned to Emily and Ben. My offer remains. You would have a home with my brother's family away from all this trouble. Ben immediately shook his head. I want to stay here, he insisted, looking to Emily for support. Emily felt torn as never before. The tribe had saved them, taught them, begun to incorporate them into their community. Yet she understood the complex reality better than Ben. They would always exist between worlds, neither fully Apache nor fully part of white society. What happens if we stay? She asked Spotted Owl directly. The old medicine man's face remained impassive, as Gentle Bear translated his response. You would become children of the people, learn our ways completely. When old enough, boy could train as warrior, girl could marry into tribe if she wishes. But always some would see you as white eyes. Path would not be easy. And if we go, Emily pressed, you carry Apache heart wherever you walk. Spotted Owl replied. Distance changes nothing. You return when spirit calls, if it calls. The choice remained impossible until Gentle Bear spoke his words, not a translation, but his own thoughts. When Mexican raiders killed my family, I thought world ended, he said quietly. Uncle who found me said sometimes great spirit breaks path we walk, so we find new path meant for us alone. Maybe your path neither completely Apache nor completely white eyes. Maybe something new. Emily considered his words carefully. What if we stayed until we're old enough to decide for ourselves? Ben is still young, and I'm not ready to be so far from everything familiar. She looked to Mr. Jensen. Would your brother be willing to welcome us in a few years, instead of now? Mr. Jensen nodded slowly. Family is family, no matter when you arrive. The compromise satisfied no one completely, but offered a path forward that honored the complexity of their situation. Emily and Ben would remain with the Apache for 2 more years, continuing their education in both cultures. Gentle Bear would teach them not just survival skills, but deeper understandings of Apache spirituality and worldview. When Emily turned 14 and Ben 10, they would journey to California, carrying letters of introduction and explanation to the Jensen family there. As the Jensens prepared to leave the following day, Rabbi sought out Mrs. Jensen one final time. The woman looked older somehow, the weight of her actions etched in new lines on her face. I want you to have this, Emily said, pressing a small object into the woman's palm, a tiny carved fetish representing Bear, one of the treasures tall woman had given her. Mrs. Jensen looked puzzled. Why would you give me anything after what I've done? Because carrying guilt alone is the heaviest burden. Emily replied, wisdom beyond her years, coloring her words. This reminds you that even in your darkest moment you chose differently. You helped save us in the end. Mrs. Jensen's fingers closed around the small carving, tears welling in her eyes. I don't deserve your kindness. Maybe not, Emily acknowledged. But I've learned that kindness isn't always about what people deserve. Sometimes it's about what they need to heal to find a better path. The Jensens departed with the cavalry patrol, Mrs. Jensen riding with dignity, despite her uncertain future. Emily and Ben watched them disappear into the distance, standing beside Gentle Bear and Tall Woman, their new family unconventional, but no less real for its unusual formation. The promised 2 years passed with remarkable swiftness. Emily blossomed under tall woman's guidance, learning not just practical skills, but the complex social and spiritual systems that governed Apache life. Her facility with language improved until she could converse fluently, even participate in ceremonial storytelling. Ben thrived even more dramatically, becoming an accomplished young horseman and tracker whose skills impressed even the most traditional warriors. When the appointed time arrived, the tribe gathered to bid farewell to the siblings who had become integral to their community. Gifts were exchanged, blessings offered, promises made to maintain connection, despite the distance that would separate them. Gentle Bear himself would escort them to California, ensuring their safe arrival before returning to his people. "You will always have place in Circle," Spotted Owl told them during the farewell ceremony. "Apache heart beats within you, now guides your steps on new path." Their journey west was marked by a bittersweet awareness of transition from one life to another, from childhood toward adulthood, from survival to purpose. Gentle Bear used the time to impart final teaching stories and wisdom he believed would serve them in their new life. "That white world sees with different eyes," he cautioned. "Will not always understand what you carry inside. Keep sacred things sacred, share only with those worthy." The Jensen Ranch outside Sacramento proved to be everything Mr. Jensen had described: vast, prosperous, welcoming. His brother Thomas and sister-in-law Catherine received Emily and Ben with genuine warmth, having exchanged letters with the children over the preceding years to establish relationship before their arrival. The parting with Gentle Bear was painful beyond words. This man who had found them freezing in a mountain cave, who had carried them when they couldn't walk, who had taught them to see the world through new eyes, would return to his people hundreds of miles away. "Will we ever see you again?" Ben asked, fighting tears. Gentle Bear knelt to eye level with the boy, now 10, and standing tall with newfound confidence. "Path that crossed once can cross again," he said gently. "Keep eyes open, heart ready." To Emily he presented a final gift, a small leather pouch containing a piece of stone from the sacred valley. "To remember path walked," he said simply. "To remember you always have 2 homes now." Emily clutched it tightly, this physical connection to everything they were leaving behind. "Thank you," she whispered, "for saving us, for teaching us, for everything." As Gentle Bear rode away, Razali and Ben stood together, watching until he disappeared from sight, and the siblings united in experience and understanding that no one else around them could fully share. They turned together toward the ranch house, toward their new life, carrying within them the lessons, language, and wisdom of the people who had made them their own when their blood family cast them aside. Years passed, the children growing into adults with distinctive paths, yet maintaining their unbreakable bond. Emily's facility with language and storytelling evolved into formal education and eventually a career as a teacher and writer. Her accounts of Apache life, respectful, authentic, based on lived experience rather than frontier prejudice, gained attention for their unique perspective. When officials developing Indian policy sought her counsel, she became an unexpected bridge between worlds typically separated by fear and misunderstanding. Ben's path led him outdoors, his Apache-trained skills translating perfectly to the role of guide and tracker. His knowledge of plant medicines, weather patterns, and survival techniques made him invaluable to scientific expeditions throughout the Western Territories. He married a young woman of mixed Spanish and indigenous heritage, their children growing up with stories and traditions from multiple cultural traditions. On Emily's 30th birthday, an unexpected visitor arrived at the school where she taught Gentle Bear. Now gray-haired but still straight-backed and clear-eyed, accompanied by his teenage son. The reunion brought tears and laughter, stories exchanged, and memories shared. He had come partly to visit his former charges, but also as representative of his people in discussions with government officials about reservation boundaries. That evening, as they sat beneath stars that looked the same in California as in Arizona, Gentle Bear shared news of the tribe. Tall woman's passing years earlier, spotted owl's continued leadership despite advanced age, children born and grown, changes both welcomed and resisted. Your story is told still, he informed Emily and Ben. Children abandoned in snow token returned to sacred place, balance restored. Story teaches that family not always blood, that courage comes in smallest packages, that different peoples can become one circle. Emily considered this legacy so different from anything she might have imagined that terrible day when their parents drove away, leaving them to die in a mountain blizzard. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if they hadn't abandoned us? Ben asked, voicing the question they rarely addressed. We would have had easier lives, perhaps. Emily acknowledged, after thoughtful silence. But lesser ones, I think. We would never have learned that family can be found in unexpected places, that strength emerges from deepest wounds, that the world is both crueler and more compassionate than we're taught to believe. She touched the small leather pouch she still wore Gentle Bear's gift from years ago, now accompanied by a silver medallion bearing Apache symbols commissioned to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the Sunrise Token's return. Their abandonment was their failure. She continued softly. What we built afterward, that's our triumph. As sunset painted the western sky in gold and crimson, Emily performed the Apache Sun Farewell, teaching the gesture to Gentle Bear's son and Ben's children gathered around her. The motion connected past to present suffering, to healing loss, to discovery. In that moment, the circle of her life felt truly complete, from abandoned child to bridge between cultures, from one rescued to one who helped shape policies that would rescue many. She had learned from Gentle Bear that a life's measure lies not in what is taken from you, but in what you build with what remains. As darkness fell, and children drifted toward sleep with promises of more stories tomorrow, Emily felt a sense of completion that transcended simple happiness. She had found belonging not in any single place or community, but in the connections forged the lives, touched the wisdom both received and passed to those who needed it most. The tattered blanket that had once concealed the stolen token now rested in a cedar chest, preserved alongside Gentle Bear's knife, Tall Woman's beaded moccasins, and the small carved fetish representing Bear the Protector. Physical links to the people who had saved not just her life, but her capacity to trust, to connect, to believe in human goodness, despite experiencing its absence. These treasures, more valuable than any gold, represented the truth Emily had carried from that mountain pass through all the decades since that abandonment may be where some stories begin, but it need never be where they end. That the human heart, like the sunrise token itself, contains power to restore what was broken, to create wholeness from fragments, to maintain connection across any distance. She closed her eyes and whispered the Apache blessing Tall Woman had taught her so long ago. May you walk in beauty. May you always find your way home. Words that had gained rather than lost meaning with passing years, encompassing the journey of a lifetime in their simple wisdom. She had walked through darkness and emerged not unscarred, but undefeated, carrying forward the light of compassion that had once saved her to illuminate paths of others still finding their way. And in that passing on, that continuation of the circle, Emily had discovered the truest meaning of home, not a place at all, but the courage to open one's heart again after it has been shattered, to offer shelter to others, even when one's own has been denied. The story of two children, abandoned in freezing mountains, had become something greater, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit when supported by unexpected kindness. A reminder that the most profound bonds are not those we are born into, but those we forge through shared struggle and compassion. As stars appeared in the clear California sky, Emily thought of that night long ago when a stranger had appeared in a cave entrance, saving two freezing children because he understood that all boundaries between people become meaningless in the face of innocent suffering. His lessons lived on through her, through Ben, through the children they in turn guided. The circle remained unbroken, stretching across decades and generations, a testament to the truth that even the cruelest abandonment can lead eventually to the deepest belonging.